Metal scrapes against concrete, echoing through the desolate industrial park. That's the heavy, undeniable sound of $10 million sealed inside an abandoned storage unit, waiting to be claimed in a blind auction. In my previous life, winning that unit got my chest caved in, and a bullet buried in my right lung, an execution orchestrated by the woman standing next to me. Now, I'm back. I'm watching my best friend's eyes go wide with greed. She wants the prize. She has no idea she's buying her own coffin. Nausea hits first. It violently twists my stomach, sour and sharp, clawing its way up my throat. My eyes snap open. A blinding shaft of morning sunlight stabs through a cracked windshield, illuminating a haze of stale cigarette smoke and cheap aerosol vanilla. The cracked faux leather passenger seat of a rusted 2012 Honda Civic digs into my shoulder blades. The engine rattles a rhythmic metallic vibration against the soles of my beat-up canvas sneakers. Panic seizes my chest. My hands fly to my ribs, fingers digging frantically through the thin cotton of my t-shirt. I expect wetness. I expect the hot, sticky rush of my own life spilling over my knuckles. I expect the agonizing, suffocating pressure of a punctured lung, the taste of dirty copper flooding the back of my mouth. There is nothing, just dry fabric and the steady, erratic thud of a living heart. Earth to Cheryl. Hello, you zoning out again, weirdo. The voice slices through my hyperventilation. I freeze. Slowly, agonizingly, I turn my head. Gemma sits behind the steering wheel, aggressively chewing a piece of spearmint gum. She's wearing my favorite oversized denim jacket, the one she borrowed 3 weeks ago, and conveniently forgot to return. Her blonde hair is pulled back into a messy claw clip, and she's glaring at me through oversized sunglasses, tapping her acrylic nails against the cracked plastic of the steering wheel. She is alive. I am alive. The last time I saw that face, she was sitting in the back of a blacked-out Lincoln Navigator, watching, with detached clinical interest, as a man in a tailored suit pressed the barrel of a suppressed pistol to my sternum. She hadn't even rolled down the window to say goodbye. She just watched me drown in my own fluids, clutching the duffel bag of cash I had foolishly trusted her to help me hide. Seriously, Cheryl? Gemma snaps popping a bubble. The sharp smack of the gum makes me flinch. We're going to miss the sign-in. Pete said they're opening the gates at 9 sharp. If we don't get a good spot, the regulars are going to block our view of the deep units. I swallow hard. My throat feels like sandpaper. I look down at the digital clock on the dashboard. October 14th, 8:42 a.m. It's 3 years ago, the morning of the Southside Storage liquidation auction. The exact day my life ended before it even really began. I'm fine. I managed to choke out, though my voice sounds like it belongs to someone else, hollow and scraping. I force my shaking hands into the pockets of my jeans. Just didn't sleep well. Whatever. Just don't drag your feet today. Gemma huffs, cutting the engine. She checks her reflection in the rearview mirror, smearing a glossy layer of lip oil over her pout. I need a win. My credit card is maxed, and that idiot landlord is breathing down my neck about the deposit. If we find something good today, we are not settling for $50 at the pawn shop. We hold out for eBay prices. Got it. We. She always said we. When it involved my money, my bidding paddle, my risk. In the previous timeline, I brought her here because she was broke. I paid the entry fee. I put down the $300 for Unit 42. When I found the pallets of what looked like imported vinyl toys, Blind boxes, they called them. I spent hours slicing them open in the sweltering heat. And when I found the tightly wrapped bricks of uncirculated $100 bills hidden inside the cheap plastic figurines, I called her because she was my best friend. Because I thought $10 million was enough to change both our lives. Instead, she called a cartel cleaner she'd met at a club. She traded my life for a guaranteed, risk-free 20% finder's fee. Got it, I whisper, stepping out of the car. The heat of the morning hits me instantly, thick and oppressive, carrying the sour scent of the nearby docks, rotting kelp diesel exhaust, and baked asphalt. Gravel crunches under my shoes. It sounds deafening. Every sensory input is dialed up to a painful maximum. The rough texture of the car door handle, the sticky humidity clinging to the back of my neck, the rhythmic clanging of a forklift somewhere deep within the maze of orange corrugated metal storage units. I am real. This is real. I trail a few steps behind Gemma as she struts toward the front gate, her hips swaying utterly oblivious to the storm raging inside my head. A terrible dark clarity begins to settle over me. The phantom ache in my chest recedes, replaced by something much colder, something jagged. In my first life, I was naive. I believed in loyalty. I believed the universe had finally handed me a winning lottery ticket. I didn't understand that money like that doesn't exist without a trail of violence attached to it. The money in Unit 42 didn't belong to a forgotten tech bro or an eccentric hoarder. It belonged to Leon Richter's organization. It was a staging ground for a massive laundering operation, temporarily abandoned because the guy renting the unit got himself arrested on an unrelated felony. Leon Richter didn't care who found his money. He only cared that it was returned and that whoever saw it was erased. Gemma reaches the folding table set up near the manager's office. Pete, the auctioneer, is already sweating through his plaid shirt, holding a clipboard and a megaphone. A crowd of about 20 people mills around scrappers, resellers, pawn shop owners, desperate people looking for abandoned treasure. Paddle 18. Pete grunts, handing Gemma a neon yellow plastic disc with the number stenciled in Sharpie. He looks at me. You bidding today, Cheryl? Or just watching her carry the heavy stuff? Just watching? I say, my voice steadying. I look at Gemma, meeting her gaze perfectly. I offer a small, convincing, pathetic smile. Gemma's the one with the eye for the good stuff. I'm just here for moral support. Gemma preens, snatching the paddle. Damn right. Let's make some money. She turns away, and my smile drops, dead and heavy. Yes, Gemma, I think, watching the back of her head. Let's buy you a fortune. The first 10 units are garbage. Literally. Pete unlocks the rolling doors, the rusted metal screeching in protest, revealing piles of water-damaged mattresses, garbage bags full of moth-eaten clothes and broken particle board furniture. The air inside the orange metal corridors grows stagnant and suffocating as the sun climbs higher. The smell of mildew and rat droppings mixes with the cheap body spray of the guy standing to my left. Sweat pools under my arms and trickles down my spine. I watch the crowd. I watch how they bid. The micro expressions of fake disinterest, the nervous shifting of feet when a bid gets too high. But mostly, I watch Gemma. She is growing agitated. She wanted a quick flip, a locker full of power tools, or maybe a forgotten motorcycle. She hasn't bid once. She keeps checking her phone, sighing loudly, radiating a toxic, entitled boredom. This is a waste of time, she hisses at me, kicking a stray pebble into the dust. My ex was supposed to drop off a check today. I could be at home, tracking him down instead of breathing in asbestos. Just wait, I murmur, keeping my eyes on Pete as he moves down the row. The bigger units are at the back, the commercial ones. Whatever. You owe me lunch for dragging me out here. I don't reply. We are approaching the 40 series block, the deep units, the ones rented by shell companies and small businesses. All right, folks, Unit 42. Pete calls out his voice, cracking slightly, through the megaphone. He wipes his forehead with a greasy rag. Renter is 6 months delinquent. Big unit 20 by 20. What you see is what you get. Don't cross the threshold. He slides the heavy padlock off the latch and heaves the door upward. The stench hits the crowd first. It's an oddly industrial smell. Damp cardboard, thick shrink wrap, and a faint chemical undertone of machine oil and ink. The interior of the unit is pitch black, swallowing the morning sunlight. Slowly, as our eyes adjust, the shapes emerge. Pallets. 6 massive wooden pallets stacked nearly to the ceiling, wrapped entirely in opaque black industrial plastic. Sitting at the very front of the unit, completely untethered, is a single, opened cardboard box. Spilling out of it are several glossy, high-end designer blind box toys, the kind that resell for $100 a pop to desperate collectors on Reddit. A murmur goes through the crowd. This isn't rusty bicycles. This is commercial inventory. Gemma squints, rising up on her tiptoes. What is that junk toys? I need to play this perfectly. In the first timeline, I excitedly told her what they were worth, convincing myself to bid my last dime. This time, I have to make her want it, but she has to believe she's stealing it from me. I grab her arm, gripping the denim jacket tight enough to make her flinch. I widen my eyes, letting my breathing turn shallow and frantic. I practically vibrate with manufactured adrenaline. Oh my God, I whisper, loud enough for her to hear, but quiet enough to sound secretive. Gemma, those are KAWS figures and bear bricks, the limited editions. Gemma frowns, pulling her arm away. English, Cheryl. What does that mean? It means, I stammer, acting like I'm trying to suppress my excitement. That box right there, just the one spilling out, that's easily $2,000. And there are 6 pallets of them. 6 pallets, Gem. It's a gold mine. Her eyes snap back to the dark interior of the unit. The boredom vanishes, replaced instantly by a sharp, predatory calculation. I know that look. It's the look she gets right before she claims she saw the guy I like first. Are you sure? She whispers, back her voice tight. I'm positive. I watch the unboxing videos all the time. I'm going to bid. I have $400 in my savings account. I can cover it. I step forward, pulling my shoulders up, pretending to look brave. All right, who gives me $100 to start? Pete yells, scanning the crowd. $100, I shout, raising my bare hand. A heavy-set man in a trucker hat immediately counters. $150, $200. I call back my voice, trembling. I look at Gemma with a fake, desperate plea. I need this gem. This could pay off my student loans. $250, the trucker grunts. $300, I squeak. I am sweating now, but not from the heat. The adrenaline of the con is intoxicating. I am pulling the strings. The trucker shakes his head, spitting a stream of sunflower seeds onto the asphalt. Too rich for toys. I'm out. $300 going once. Pete drones, looking around. Going twice. I let a massive smile break across my face. I look at Gemma, my eyes shining with manufactured tears of joy. I got it, I whisper to her. I finally caught a break. That's all it takes. The absolute certainty that I am about to be successful. Gemma cannot stand it. Her ego, her chronic need to be the superior friend, the one who rescues me, the one who holds the power, overrides everything else. 400, Gemma shouts, thrusting her neon yellow paddle into the air. I whip my head around to look at her, letting my jaw drop. I force my eyes to wide, betrayed shock. Gemma, what are you doing? I don't have 400. She doesn't look at me. She keeps her eyes locked on Pete. 400, she repeats, her voice ringing with authority. 400 to the lady in the sunglasses. Any advance? Pete waits 3 seconds. Sold, lock it up, number 18. Gemma lowers the paddle. She finally turns to me, her lips curved into a patronizing, sickeningly sweet smile. She reaches out and pats my shoulder. Relax, babe, she says, her tone dripping with fake sympathy. I couldn't let you empty your savings account. That's irresponsible. Besides, I have the credit limit to rent a U-Haul to move this stuff. We'll inventory it at my place. I'll throw you a 10% finder's fee for spotting them. Sound fair? 10%? Last time, she didn't even offer me a cut of my own unit. I look down at the ground, letting my shoulders slump in perfect, defeated submission. I bite the inside of my cheek hard enough to taste iron, using the pain to force a genuine sheen of moisture into my eyes. Yeah, I whisper, kicking the dust. Thanks, Gemma. Don't mention it, she chirps, already walking toward Pete to sign the paperwork. That's what besties are for. I stand alone in front of Unit 42. The smell of damp cardboard and chemical ink wafts over me again. I stare into the dark abyss of the locker. Enjoy your prize, bestie. The heat inside Unit 42 is absolute. It is a suffocating, stagnant oven. By noon, the auction crowd has dispersed, leaving the industrial park eerily quiet, save for the distant hum of traffic on the interstate. Gemma had paid Pete the cash deposit, driven to the nearest hardware store, and returned with a pair of heavy-duty bolt cutters and a box cutter. She is practically vibrating with manic energy. She has stripped down to a tank top sweat, leaving dark streaks through her foundation. She steps over the threshold, kicking the loose cardboard box of display toys out of the way. They scatter across the concrete, cheap plastic rattling against stone. She doesn't even look at them. Help me with this plastic, she commands, tossing me the box cutter. I don't cross the threshold. I stand exactly 1 inch outside the painted yellow line that marks the entrance. In my previous life, my fingerprints were all over that plastic. My DNA was in the sweat dripped onto the pallets. When Leon Richter's men eventually tracked the missing shipment, they found a meticulously cataloged crime scene with my identity plastered all over it. I can't, I stammer, leaning against the metal doorframe, pressing a hand to my stomach. I force my skin to go pale, taking shallow, ragged breaths. Gemma, I feel sick, really sick. The heat. I think I'm going to pass out. Gemma stops glaring at me over her shoulder. Her face contorts with disgust. Are you kidding me right now? You're going to pull this fragile act when we are literally standing in front of a gold mine. Drink some water and get in here. I can't, I whine, sliding down the doorframe to sit on the hot asphalt, putting my head between my knees. Just cut it yourself. I'll just sit here. I don't want to throw up on the merchandise. She rolls her eyes, an exaggerated groan, echoing in the metal box. You are utterly useless, Cheryl. Fine. Just sit there and don't whine. She snatches the box cutter from where I dropped it near her feet. She turns back to the first towering pallet. She wedges the blade into the thick, black plastic wrap at the top and yanks downward. The sound is violently loud, a thick, tearing zip that splits the silence of the warehouse. The plastic parts like dead skin falling away to reveal tightly packed rows of identical, unbranded cardboard boxes. They don't look like retail packaging. There are no logos, just plain heavy corrugated cardboard. Gemma frowns. These aren't retail boxes. She pulls the top box free. It's heavy, too heavy for a plastic toy. She grunts with the effort, dropping it onto the floor. Dust poofs up around her ankles. She kneels, slicing the packing tape, sealing the box shut. She flips the flaps open. Inside are the blind boxes. Small, glossy, colorful packaging depicting cartoonish bears and stylized skulls. But they are crammed in haphazardly. Gemma grabs one of the small blind boxes. She tears the foil wrapper open. No toy falls out. Instead, a thick, tightly compressed block of paper wrapped in heavy-duty, vacuum-sealed plastic thuds onto the concrete. Gemma freezes. The air in the unit seems to instantly evaporate. I watch her hands through the gap between my knees. They are trembling. Slowly, she reaches out and picks up the brick. Through the clear, airtight plastic, the face of Benjamin Franklin stares back at her. The green ink is vibrant. The serial numbers are sequential. It is a solid brick of $100 bills, $50,000 in a single vacuum-sealed block. Oh, Gemma exhales. A tiny broken sound. She drops the brick. She rips open another blind box. Another vacuum-sealed block of cash hits the floor. She tears into a third, a fourth. Her breath starts coming in ragged, hyperventilating gasps. She scrambles backward, staring at the single cardboard box, which contains at least 20 blind boxes. Then, she looks up at the pallet. There are hundreds of cardboard boxes on that pallet, and there are 6 pallets. "Cheryl," she whispers. Her voice is completely stripped of its usual arrogant drawl. It is small, terrified, and vibrating with an electric, bottomless greed. I keep my head down. "What is it junk? Did you waste your money?" "Cheryl, look at me." I feign a groan, slowly lifting my head and blinking away fake dizziness. I look past her into the dim interior of the locker. I let my eyes land on the stacks of money scattered on the floor. I know exactly what I am looking at. I know that money smells like old soil, industrial solvent, and blood. I know that if you trace the serial numbers, they lead to a shadow banking network in Macau. I know that the man who lost it will skin people alive to get it back. I widen my eyes. I let my jaw drop. I scramble backward on the asphalt, my hands scraping against the rough gravel. "Gemma," I breathe out, projecting pure, unadulterated terror. "What is that? Is that real?" Gemma doesn't answer immediately. She looks at the cash, then looks at me. And in that split second, I see the absolute death of whatever microscopic shred of friendship she ever held for me. The calculation in her eyes is cold and mechanical. She is doing the math. She is realizing that $10 million cannot be split. It cannot be shared. And a witness is a liability. "You need to leave," she says. Her voice drops an octave. It is flat dead and utterly serious. "What?" I say, my voice shaking. "Gemma, we need to call the police. That's drug money. That's cartel money. You can't keep that." "Shut up," she hisses, lunging forward to grab the metal door track. "Keep your voice down, you idiot. Nobody knows it's here." "Gemma, please," I beg, scrambling to my feet. "Leave it. Walk away. We don't know who owns this." She sneers at me. Her hands are shaking. but she grips a brick of cash tightly against her chest. I own this. I bought the unit. It's mine. You didn't put a dime into this. You have no claim. I don't want a claim. I cry out, stumbling backward, putting distance between myself and the entrance. I want to go home. I'm leaving. I'm pretending I never saw this. Sigh, good. She snaps her eyes, wide, wild, and utterly consumed by the green paper in her hands. You do that, Cheryl. You walk away. You take an Uber. And if you ever breathe a word of this to anyone, I swear to God, I will ruin your life. Do you understand me? You were never here. I was never here. I repeat, my voice cracking perfectly. I'll just go. She doesn't even watch me leave. She turns her back to me, dropping to her knees in the dirt, tearing frantically into the next cardboard box, like a starving dog ripping into a carcass. I turn and walk away. I don't look back. I don't run. I walk with measured, deliberate steps toward the front gate. The heat beats down on my shoulders, but for the first time since waking up in that rusted Honda Civic, I feel a cool, profound relief washing over me. My alibi is set. My fingerprints are absent. She has claimed the treasure. Leon Richter's men track the GPS microtransmitters embedded in the pallets. They don't check in every day, but when they do, they track the movement. Gemma is going to try to move those pallets. She is going to rent a truck. She is going to lead the wolves right to her own front door. I pull my phone out of my pocket, staring at the black screen, seeing my own reflection. I look different. The soft, compliant girl who died in that warehouse is gone. Enjoy the money, Gemma. Spend it fast, because you have exactly 72 hours before the Grim Reaper comes to collect. 72 hours feels entirely different when you are waiting for a murder. Time doesn't tick. It drags heavy and suffocating, like pulling a wet wool blanket over your face. My apartment is a tiny suffocating box over a 24-hour laundromat on 4th Street. The constant rumble of the industrial dryers vibrates through my cheap linoleum floorboards, rattling my teeth. The air constantly smells of synthetic lavender detergent and burnt lint. I sit on my faded thrift store sofa, knees pulled to my chest, staring at the cracked screen of my phone. I need an alibi, something boring documented and completely detached from the Southside storage facility. Monday morning, exactly 24 hours after abandoning Gemma at Unit 42, I clock into my shift at a miserable downtown diner. The security camera above the cash register records my every move in grainy black and white. For 8 hours, I pour scorched coffee into chipped ceramic mugs. I scrub sticky syrup off laminated tables. I let greasy-haired regulars complain about the weather and leave me damp single-dollar bills as tips. Every time the bell above the diner door chimes, my stomach drops a sickening jolt of adrenaline spiking my heart rate. I keep expecting a man in a tailored suit to walk in, raise a suppressed pistol, and finish what he started in my past life. But nobody comes. During my break, crouching in the alley behind the kitchen, next to the rancid grease trap, I check Instagram. Gemma's profile is a frantic, chaotic mess of sudden, inexplicable wealth. There are no pictures of the cash. She isn't that stupid, but the manic energy bleeds through the screen. A boomerang video of her holding a set of keys for a rented 20-foot box truck. A blurry selfie in the reflection of a high-end salon mirror, sporting a fresh $600 set of platinum extensions. A cryptic, arrogant text post against a black background. Watch the people who doubted you choke on your dust. I close the app, resting the back of my head against the cool, grimy brick of the alleyway. I close my eyes, trying to picture the logistics of what she is attempting. $10 million in $100 bills weighs roughly 220 pounds. But that's just the raw paper. Hidden inside heavy cardboard boxes, stuffed into glossy, blind box packaging, stacked on wooden pallets, the sheer physical mass is staggering. In my previous life, we didn't try to move the pallets. We tried to unpack the bricks and stuff them into duffel bags. It took us 9 hours of back-breaking, blistering labor in the stifling heat of the locker to even make a dent. Gemma is doing it alone. Her ego won't allow her to hire help. She won't trust anyone else with the secret. I can perfectly imagine her, right now, her manicured nails breaking off one by one as she tears through the thick, corrugated cardboard. Her lungs burning from the dust and stagnant air. The paralyzing paranoia creeping in every time a car drives past the storage facility gates. She is likely stuffing vacuum-sealed bricks into cheap black garbage bags, dragging them across the rough concrete, tearing the plastic, bruising her knees. The greed is a potent painkiller, but eventually, the physical toll will catch up to her. More importantly, the GPS trackers embedded in the base of those wooden pallets are pinging. They use cellular networks, activating only when significant movement is detected or a timer expires to conserve battery. Leon Richter's network engineers are probably sitting in a dark, air-conditioned room, somewhere watching a blinking red dot move erratically from a sketchy industrial park to wherever Gemma is stupid enough to stash the haul. She won't take it to a bank. You can't deposit $10 million without triggering federal flags that would bring the IRS and the DEA down on you before lunch. She'll take it to her apartment, a second-floor walk-up in a complex with terrible security and thin walls. Tuesday bleeds into Wednesday. The phantom ache in my chest returns a dull, throbbing pressure beneath my ribs. It isn't a medical condition. It's a psychological haunting. My body remembers the bullet tearing through tissue and bone. I spend Wednesday night sitting on my bathroom floor, the cold porcelain of the toilet pressing against my cheek, dry heaving, until my throat is raw. My hands shake violently. I am letting her die. The realization isn't a triumphant cinematic moment. It's ugly. It tastes like bile and cheap toothpaste. I try to force myself to feel remorse, to pick up my phone and dial her number, to scream at her to run. But then, I remember the cold, clinical way she looked at me in the back of that Lincoln Navigator. I remember the sound of her chewing gum while I choked on my own blood. She traded my pulse for a payout. This isn't murder. It's a correction. By 11 p.m. on Wednesday, the 72 hours are up. I turn off all the lights in my apartment. I sit in the dark, the rhythmic thud of the laundromat downstairs, matching the heavy, terrifying beat of my heart. I wait for the phone to ring. Vibration shatters the silence. My phone dances across the scratched surface of my coffee table, the screen illuminating the dark room with a harsh, bluish glare. It's 2:14 a.m. The caller ID displays Gemma's name, accompanied by an old selfie of us making duck faces at a dive bar. The photo looks like an artifact from a dead civilization. I stare at it for 4 rings. My mouth goes entirely dry. I wipe my sweating palms on my denim jeans, reaching out with a trembling hand to swipe the green icon. I don't say hello. I just press the receiver to my ear. Cheryl. Her voice is unrecognizable. It is a high, thin, ragged wheeze, completely stripped of its usual bravado. It sounds like she's trying to swallow broken glass. In the background, I can hear a chaotic, muffled thumping, like heavy furniture being dragged across hardwood floors. Cheryl, please pick up. Please be there. She begs. her breath catching in her throat. "I'm here," I say. My voice sounds remarkably flat, completely detached from the violent trembling of my hands. They found me." She sobs the sound, wet and frantic. "Cheryl, you have to call the police. Send them to my apartment. Don't use your name. Just call them. Please. I don't know who these people are." "Who is there, Gemma?" I ask, though I already know the answer. "Men. 2 of them. They kicked the door off the hinges. They didn't even say anything." A loud crash echoes through the speaker, followed by the distinct, terrifying sound of drywall splintering. Gemma lets out a muffled, terrified squeak, like a cornered rat. "They're tearing the walls apart. They found the garbage bags in the closet. Cheryl, they have guns, big ones. They have silencers." Sensory memory hits me like a physical blow. The smell of gun oil. The quiet, deadly beat of a suppressed round. The terrifying, businesslike efficiency of cartel cleaners. They don't monologue. They don't ask questions. They inventory the stolen product, and they erase the thieves. "Where are you hiding?" I ask, staring blankly at the peeling paint on my ceiling. "The bathroom," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the sound of her own hyperventilation. I lock the door. I shove the dresser against it. But they're right outside. They're just whispering. "Cheryl, I'm so scared. I'll give it all to them. I'll give them the truck. I just want to live." A sharp, agonizing spike of guilt threatens to pierce my resolve. My fingers grip the phone tight enough to crack the plastic case. She is my oldest friend. We shared clothes. We shared secrets. We survived our 20s together. But she isn't the victim here. She is the architect of her own execution. "Gemma," I say, my voice dropping to a quiet, steady rhythm. "Do you remember when I told you to walk away? When I begged you to leave the unit, and you told me I was never there?" The line goes dead silent for a fraction of a second. The background noise of the apartment being ransacked continues, but Gemma's breathing hitches. "Cheryl, what are you talking about? Help me call 911. "I can't do that," I reply, the coldness finally settling into my bones, freezing the panic, freezing the guilt. If I call the cops, they trace the 911 call. They find me, and then Leon's men come for me too. "How do you know that name?" The sheer terror in her voice morphs, fracturing into a jagged spike of confusion. "Cheryl, how do you know whose money this is?" "Because you killed me for it," I whisper. A heavy, sickening impact reverberates through the phone speaker. The sound of a combat boot kicking a hollow core bathroom door. Wood splinters. Gemma screams, a raw, primal sound that tears at my eardrums. "Cheryl, please, I'm sorry, I'll do anything." "Enjoy your prize, Bestie," I say. I press the red button. The call terminates. The silence rushes back into my apartment, ringing in my ears, heavy and absolute. I drop the phone onto the coffee table. It sits there, an inanimate block of glass and plastic, completely unaffected by the horrific reality it just transmitted. I don't cry. I don't feel a triumphant rush of vengeance. I just feel incredibly, overwhelmingly exhausted. The phantom pain in my chest finally dissolves, melting away into the humid apartment air. I walk into my tiny kitchen. The fluorescent light bulb above the sink flickers violently, buzzing like an angry hornet. I turn the tap, letting the lukewarm, metallic-tasting city water run over my hands. I scrub my skin with a rough sponge and cheap dish soap until my knuckles are raw and red. washing away invisible stains. 20 minutes later, I pull a dusty police scanner out of a cardboard box under my bed. I plug it into the wall outlet, the static hissing into the room. I tune it to the precinct, covering Gemma's neighborhood. For an hour, there is nothing but routine traffic stops and a noise complaint at a local bar. Then, at 3:42 a.m., the dispatcher's voice cuts through the static, crisp, and clinical. Unit 4, Unit 7, proceed to 812 Sycamore Lane, Apartment 2, B. Anonymous neighbor reports a domestic disturbance. Possible shots fired. Be advised, caller stated the front door is wide open and there is significant structural damage visible from the hallway. I reach out and twist the volume dial all the way down until the radio clicks off. It's done. Leon Richter got his $10 million back. He got the thief who tried to steal it. The trail ends in that ruined second-floor apartment. There are no loose ends. There is no Cheryl Evans caught on a security camera at a storage auction. There is no Cheryl Evans bleeding out in the back of an SUV. I am a ghost to them, completely invisible. I walk over to the cracked window, pushing it open to let the cool night air push out the smell of laundry detergent. The city stretches out before me, a grid of amber streetlights and dark, towering silhouettes. Gemma thought $10 million was a lot of money. She thought it was enough to betray blood, enough to risk her life. She lacked vision. 10 million is just petty cash for the people who really run this city. It's operating budget, but now I know how they operate. I know the shell companies Leon uses to rent those units. I know the shipping routes. I know the blind spots in their logistics. I survived the firing squad. Now it's time to build my own empire. And I'm going to build it right on top of Leon Richter's bones. Sunlight bleaches the cracked linoleum of my kitchen floor, revealing every speck of dirt I missed sweeping the night before. Thursday morning feels entirely ordinary, which makes it grotesque. The world hasn't stopped spinning. Gravity still works. My coffee still tastes like burnt copper. An hour later, 2 plainclothes detectives walk into the diner. They look exactly how cops always look at the end of a graveyard shift, exhausted, cynical, and carrying the unmistakable scent of stale nicotine and cheap dry cleaning. They sit at booth 4. They don't order food. They just ask for me. My manager, a nervous man who sweats through his collared shirts, points a shaking finger in my direction. I take a deep breath. I let my shoulders drop, pulling my posture inward to make myself look smaller, more fragile. I wipe my hands on my apron, leaving damp streaks across the canvas, and walk over to their booth. Cheryl Evans? The older detective asks. He has a pockmarked face and a tie that doesn't match his suit. I'm Detective Miller. This is Detective Hayes. We need to ask you some questions about Gemma Foley. Sigh, Gemma. I let my voice hitch, forcing a perfectly calculated tremor into my vocal cords. Is she okay? Did she get into an accident? Miller sighs a heavy, raspy sound. He avoids my eyes, looking down at his notepad. Miss Foley was found deceased in her apartment early this morning. We're investigating it as a homicide. I don't have to fake the physical reaction. My body remembers the shock of violence, the sudden, icy plunge of adrenaline. My knees buckle slightly. I grab the edge of the laminated table, my knuckles turning white. I let out a choked, ragged gasp, covering my mouth with both hands. No, I whisper, shaking my head frantically. No, that's not. I just saw her on Monday. We went to an auction. They guide me into the booth. Hayes, the younger detective, offers me a lukewarm bottle of water. For the next hour, I feed them a flawless, verifiable narrative. I tell them about the storage auction. I tell them Gemma bought a unit full of heavy cardboard boxes. I tell them I left early because the heat made me nauseous. And I took a bus back to my apartment. I give them the route number. I show them my clock-in times at the diner. Did she mention what was in the boxes? Miller asks, watching my face intently. She thought it was imported toys, collectibles. I say, tears finally spilling over my eyelashes. They are real tears. I am crying for the girl who used to braid my hair in middle school. The girl who died a long time before those bullets ever touched her. She was so excited. She said she was going to be rich. Who would kill her over plastic toys? Miller and Hayes exchange a brief, heavy look. They know what was in that apartment. They know the cartel doesn't tear down walls for plastic toys. We're looking into it, Miller says softly, closing his notepad. If you think of anything else, anyone she owed money, to anyone she might have crossed, call us. They leave a business card on the table. I stare at the embossed black lettering until it blurs. The police will never solve it. They will hit a wall of shell companies and dead-end burner phones, and eventually Gemma's file will be shoved into a dusty filing cabinet, just another casualty of the city's invisible wars. When my shift ends, I don't go home. I walk 6 blocks in the fading afternoon heat to the main branch of the public library. The air conditioning inside smells like old paper and floor wax. I find a computer terminal in the very back corner, away from the glare of the windows. It is time to go to work. In my first life, before the execution, Gemma and I spent 2 frantic days trying to figure out how to clean the cash. I had combed through every scrap of paper inside Unit 42, looking for a way to untraceably fence the merchandise. I memorized the shipping manifests slapped onto the side of those wooden pallets. The primary recipient was a company called Kestrel Imports. My fingers fly across the greasy plastic keyboard. I access the state's corporate registry database. I search the name. Kestrel Imports is registered to a P.O. box in a strip mall on the east side. The registered agent is a man named Thomas Vance. No, wait, that was the lawyer. The actual operations manager listed on the secondary filings is Elias Thorne. I sit back in the hard wooden chair, the cheap plastic creaking under my weight. Elias. I remember his face. He was the one driving the black Lincoln Navigator when I was killed. He had a jagged scar cutting through his left eyebrow and a habit of rhythmically tapping his thumb against the steering wheel. He wasn't the boss. He was a mid-level dog, a logistics manager, who made sure Leon Richter's dirty paper moved from point A to point B without catching federal heat. Leon Richter is a ghost. You don't strike a ghost. You strike the people tethering him to the earth. I pull a small spiral-bound notebook from my bag and begin writing down addresses, license plate numbers from old street view captures, and property records. I am completely numb. The terror of the morning has burned off, leaving behind a cold, sharp mechanical focus. I need operating capital. $10 million is gone, swallowed back into the belly of the beast. But Elias oversees millions more. He handles the drops, the bribes, the petty cash that lubricates Richter's machine. To bleed a network like this, you don't use a knife. You use a parasite. And I know exactly where to attach myself. 3 weeks later, the physical toll of stalking a man is settling deep into my bones. My lower back screams with a constant dull ache from sleeping in the back of a rusted 2008 Ford Econoline van I bought for $2,000 cash from a desperate roofer. The van smells of damp mildew, old fiberglass insulation, and the sour tang of my own nervous sweat. It's 11:45 p.m. on a Tuesday. Rain is finally breaking, the autumn humidity drumming a steady, chaotic rhythm against the metal roof of the van. I am parked across the street from a brightly lit 24-hour laundromat in the industrial district. I have watched Elias make this run 3 times now. Every Tuesday, just before midnight, he pulls up in a charcoal gray sedan. He walks into the laundromat carrying a battered leather gym bag. He goes into the employee-only room at the back. 10 minutes later, he walks out the bag, visibly lighter, and drives away. It's a clearinghouse. The laundromat takes in dirty street cash, washes it through rigged commercial machines, reporting fake usage data, and Elias collects the clean, packaged bundles to move up the ladder. Tonight, I am going to break the cycle. I pull the hood of my dark raincoat over my head. My heart is hammering against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in my chest. I have never robbed anyone. In my past life, I was a victim of circumstance, a girl who stumbled into the wrong room. Tonight, I am choosing to kick the door down. I step out of the van. The cold rain hits my face, shocking my system, sharpening my senses. The street is utterly deserted. The sodium streetlights cast long, sickly orange shadows across the wet asphalt. I cross the street, avoiding the puddles that would splash and make noise. I don't go to the front door. I slip down the narrow, garbage-strewn alley, running along the side of the building. The smell of rotting vegetables and wet cardboard is overpowering. I reach the heavy steel back door. I pull a pair of heavy-duty bolt cutters from beneath my coat. Elias doesn't rely on electronic security here. It leaves a digital footprint. He relies on heavy padlocks and the fear of the cartel's reputation. But a padlock is just metal, and metal yields to leverage. I wedge the jaws of the cutters around the thick shackle of the master lock. I brace my boots against the wet brick wall, gripping the rubber handles. I throw my entire body weight backward, grunting softly. The lock snaps with a sharp, metallic crack that sounds deafening in the narrow alley. I freeze my breath, catching in my throat, pressing my back against the cold, wet brick. I listen over the sound of the rain. Nothing. No shouts, no sirens. Just the low, mechanical hum of the washing machines through the wall. I pull the lock free and ease the heavy door open. It protests with a faint squeal of ungreased hinges. I slip inside, pulling the door shut behind me. The back room is suffocatingly hot, smelling of harsh bleach and industrial lint. The only light comes from a single bare bulb, dangling from a frayed cord over a folding table. On that table sits Elias's gym bag. He hasn't arrived yet. The local manager left the drop for him. It's sloppy. It's arrogant. They are so used to being the apex predators in this city that they have grown lazy. My hands are shaking violently as I step toward the table. I reach out and unzip the heavy canvas bag. Inside are rows of neatly banded cash. Not $100 bills, 20s and 50s, street money. It's messy, crumpled, and carries the faint, distinct odor of sweat and dirt. It's nothing like the pristine bricks from the storage unit. I don't have time to count it, but the sheer volume makes my breath hitch. It has to be at least $80,000. I don't take the gym bag. If Elias walks in and finds the bag completely gone, he immediately locks down the building, calls his muscle, and hunts down the thief. I need him confused. I need him to doubt his own people. I pull a thick plastic grocery bag from my pocket. Working frantically, I grab 4 thick bundles of cash and shove them into the plastic. Roughly $20,000. A quarter of the drop. Then, I do the most important part of the plan. I reach into my pocket and pull out a small metallic object. It's a cheap, distinctive brass money clip shaped like a coiled snake. I bought it at a pawn shop 2 towns over. It's gaudy, flashy, and completely out of place. I drop the money clip right onto the center of the folding table, inches from the unzipped gym bag. I zip the gym bag back up, leaving it exactly where I found it. I clutch my stolen grocery bag to my chest, my heart racing so fast, it physically hurts. I back away toward the alley door. As I slip out into the cold, pouring rain, I hear the distinct crunch of tires. Pulling up to the front of the laundromat, Elias has arrived. I don't run. Running makes noise. I walk swiftly, deliberately, melting into the shadows of the alley, slipping back across the wet street, and climbing into the back of my rusted van. I collapse onto the mattress, clutching the plastic bag of cash, my chest heaving. I am soaking wet, freezing cold, and trembling uncontrollably. I did it. Elias will walk into that back room. He will count the money. He will realize it's light. And then he will see the brass snake money clip. He won't think of a ghost from a storage unit. He will think the local laundromat manager skimmed off the top and accidentally dropped a piece of flashy jewelry in his haste. Elias is going to brutally punish his own supply chain. He is going to create friction, paranoia, and chaos within Leon Richter's network. And while they are busy cannibalizing each other, I am going to use their $20,000 to buy the tools I need to burn the rest of their empire to the ground. I bury my face in my hands, letting out a ragged, hysterical laugh that gets swallowed by the sound of the rain. The taste of copper is gone from my mouth. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, I feel powerful. Neon light from the flickering motel sign cuts across my face, pulsing in a slow, agonizing rhythm of harsh pink and sickly yellow. $20,000 in street cash smells like dirty denim, stale beer, and sweat. It sits piled on the stained, sagging mattress of a roadside motel off Highway 9, rubber bands snapping softly as I sort the bills. My hands look like they belong to a stranger. The fingernails are bitten down to the quick, ringed with dark grime. A purple, ugly bruise blooms across my left forearm, where I slammed it against the alley door, escaping the laundromat. I haven't slept more than 3 consecutive hours in 6 days. My diet consists of vending machine peanut butter crackers and lukewarm tap water. My body is failing running purely on a toxic mixture of adrenaline and absolute concentrated spite. I buy 3 burner phones, a high-gain radio scanner, and a second-hand laptop with a battery that barely holds a charge. I spend my nights in the rusted Econoline van, parked in the shadowed lots of 24-hour diners, tapping into unencrypted police dispatch channels, and watching Elias's network cannibalize itself. It happens faster than I anticipated. Paranoia is a highly contagious disease. When Elias found that bag light accompanied by the brass snake clip, he didn't call the police. He didn't even call Leon Richter. He called his own muscle. On Friday morning, I sit in the van, shivering, despite the heavy wool blanket wrapped around my shoulders, and listen to the local morning news on a cracked AM radio. A body was found in an abandoned industrial drainage ditch on the south side. Male, early 40s. Blunt force trauma. The police withhold the name pending family notification. But I don't need them to say it. It's Toby, the laundromat manager. A wave of nausea violently hits me. I slide open the side door of the van, lean over the asphalt, and dry heave until my stomach muscles cramp and burn. The sour taste of bile coats my tongue. I killed him. I didn't swing the bat. I didn't pull a trigger, but I placed the bait. I drew the target on his back to save my own skin, to buy myself an opening. Gemma's death felt like justice, a brutal karmic balancing of the scales. But Toby was just a guy skimming a few $100 off the top of his employer's laundry loads to pay off gambling debts. He was a bottom feeder, not a predator. I spit a wad of bitter saliva onto the pavement, wiping my mouth with the back of my trembling hand. I slam the van door shut. I collapse back onto the mattress, curling into a tight ball, listening to the erratic, terrifying thud of my own heart. You are a monster. A small, rational voice whispers in the back of my head. You are exactly like them. You trade lives for leverage. I squeeze my eyes shut, pressing the heels of my hands against my eyelids until stars explode in the darkness. I am surviving, I whisper to the empty van. The words sound hollow, scraping against the metal walls. I force myself to sit up. I open the laptop. I cannot afford the luxury of a conscience. Not right now. If I stop moving, if I hesitate, the ghost of Cheryl Evans will become a permanent, rotting fixture in this van. The chaos I sparked is bearing fruit. Elias is scrambling. He tortured his own manager, found the missing $20,000 wasn't in Toby's possession, and now he suspects a leak higher up the chain. The entire laundering operation has ground to a halt, and when dirty money stops moving, Leon Richter gets impatient. By Sunday evening, I intercept a fragmented, scrambled radio call between Elias and a private airstrip dispatcher outside the city limits. They are moving the heavy load. The $10 million, Gemma's curse. The bricks of $100 bills recovered from her ruined apartment is too hot to keep in the city with the homicide detectives sniffing around. Richter is flying it down to a holding facility in the Caymans. It's leaving tonight. I don't have the firepower to take down an armored convoy. I don't have a team of highly trained mercenaries. I have a laptop, $15,000 left in street cash, and the absolute certainty that Leon Richter's men are looking in the wrong direction. They are hunting a rival cartel. They are hunting a sophisticated crew of thieves. They aren't hunting a dead girl with a burner phone. I drive the van to a public park on the edge of the city. I find a secluded picnic table under a canopy of dying oak trees. I open the laptop and connect to a public Wi-Fi network originating from a nearby coffee shop. I begin typing. I don't write a ransom note. I don't make a threat. I write a meticulously detailed, entirely anonymous tip. I include the tail number of the private charter plane. I include the exact GPS coordinates of the hangar. I list the shell companies Elias uses to book the flights. I detail the vacuum-sealed packaging of the bills. I attach the email to a secure, encrypted Dropbox belonging to the regional director of the DEA's Financial Crimes Task Force. Then I hit send. Heavy tires bite into the gravel, the sound echoing through the damp night air. I am lying flat on my stomach on a wooded ridge overlooking the Montgomery Private Airfield. The ground is freezing, soaking through my thick jacket, chilling my ribs. I press the cold rubber eyepieces of a pair of cheap binoculars against my face. My breath, pluming in white clouds before me. Down below the tarmac is bathed in the harsh, sterile glow of halogen floodlights. A sleek, twin-engine Gulfstream idles on the runway, its turbines whining with a high-pitched, deafening roar. Elias stands near the loading ramp. Even from this distance, through the grainy magnification of the lenses, I can see the tension in his shoulders. He is barking orders at 4 heavily armed men dressed in dark tactical gear. They are hauling heavy black Pelican cases out of the back of a customized armored SUV. The money, my money, Gemma's money. My heart pounds a frantic rhythm against the frozen earth. I check the digital watch on my wrist. 11:42 p.m. The feds are late. If they don't show up in the next 3 minutes, those cases get loaded, the plane takes off, and Leon Richter wins. He keeps his empire. I stay a ghost, living in a rusted van, waiting for the day they finally trace my shadow. Please, I whisper to the dirt. Please. A heavy Pelican case thuds onto the metal ramp of the plane. Elias checks his watch, waving frantically at the pilot. The turbines pitch higher. They are getting ready to roll. Suddenly, the perimeter lights of the airfield short out. The sudden darkness is absolute, shocking the eyes. A split second later, the silence of the woods is shattered by the deep, rhythmic thwump, thwump, thwump of heavy rotor blades. 2 matte black tactical helicopters crest the tree line behind the hangars, dropping out of the night sky like predatory birds. Their blinding million candle power spotlights snap on, pinning the Gulf Stream and the SUV to the tarmac in a pool of inescapable white light. Federal agents, drop your weapons, get on the ground. The voice booms over a megaphone vibrating in my chest cavity. At the exact same moment, the reinforced front gates of the airfield explode inward. 4 armored Bearcat tactical vehicles smash through the chain-link fencing tires, screaming as they drift onto the tarmac, completely surrounding the plane. Panic erupts. Through the binoculars, I watch Elias freeze. His tactical guys raise their rifles, blinded by the spotlights, unsure where to aim. The standoff lasts exactly 2 seconds before the overwhelming federal presence breaks them. One of the guards drops his rifle and drops to his knees, lacing his hands behind his head. The others follow suit. Elias tries to run. He dives toward the open door of the SUV, scrambling for the driver's seat. A federal agent in heavy body armor tackles him to the asphalt. I watch the agent drive a knee into Elias's spine, yanking his arms backward, slapping heavy steel cuffs onto his wrists. I lower the binoculars. My hands are shaking so badly, I can barely grip the plastic casing. I roll over onto my back, staring up at the canopy of dead branches in the starless black sky. The screaming sirens and the roar of the helicopters wash over me, a chaotic, beautiful symphony of destruction. Leon Richter's $10 million is gone, confiscated, logged into a federal evidence vault. Elias is going to federal prison for the rest of his natural life. And, without his logistics manager, without his operating capital, Richter's network will bleed out. His rivals will smell the weakness. They will tear him apart in the streets. I don't have $10 million. I will never live in a penthouse. I will never buy designer clothes or drive a luxury car. But I am breathing. I slowly push myself up from the frozen ground. My knees ache and my lower back throbs with a dull, persistent pain. I brush the dead leaves off my coat. I turn my back on the flashing blue and red lights illuminating the valley below. I walk back through the dark woods toward my rusted van. I have $15,000 stashed under the floorboards. It's enough for a fake ID, a tank of gas, and a deposit on a quiet, unremarkable apartment in a city 3 states over. It's enough to start a life that doesn't belong to a victim. I climb into the driver's seat, the cold vinyl shocking my skin. I put the key in the ignition. The engine sputters, coughs, and finally roars to life. I pull out onto the empty 2-lane highway, the headlights cutting a pale, yellow path through the darkness. I roll the window down, letting the freezing night air whip across my face, stinging my cheeks, bringing tears to my eyes. I survived the blind box warehouse. I survived my best friend's betrayal. I survived the bullet that was meant to end my story. The girl who bought Unit 42 is dead. I leave her behind, buried in the ashes of the empire she just burned to the ground. I press the accelerator, driving out of the darkness and into whatever comes next. If you felt the adrenaline of Cheryl's revenge and loved watching her tear down a cartel from the shadows, absolutely crush that like button, drop a comment below telling me which part of her tactical takedown was your favorite. Did she go too far, or did they get exactly what they deserved? Make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another gritty, twisted rebirth story. Your support helps me keep writing these intense narratives. Share this video with a friend who loves a dark, perfectly executed revenge plot.